Yeah, this billionaire Jeff Green that I've never heard of, you've never heard of, she's never heard of, he's never heard of, but he exists.
But he got some money.
Clearly, he predicts house prices will soar once rates fall. What confused me about the article is he saying that interest rates are holding back a huge boom in the housing market. The only thing I know that I can I was asking you earlier, like, is this a good boom or a bad boom?
If it's a good boom or a bad boom, depends on what side of the boom you on.
Oh.
Because that is going to determine whether life is going to be worse for you or if life is going to be great for you. So in 2020, we saw a huge housing boom with applications, people applying to go get houses, housing purchases. I mean, it was like a field day out there if you were a seller or if you had a listing. As soon as before you push enter to send it out to the web, you already had like multiple offers. Exactly. It was crazy. All of that attention inflated the economy, which we'll get to in a little bit, but it also increased home prices because demand was so high for homes. And so when you increase, economics 101, you increase the demand and the supply is low, prices are going to go up. If the demand drops and the supply raises, you got prices that go down. So, like 2008, we had a whole bunch of houses, no one was buying. So prices were really, really low. But yeah, with interest rates, when interest rates drop, it's going to have a boom in home prices, meaning you're going to see home prices start to skyrocket again.
Okay, yeah.
When interest rates drop, because a lot of people who've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for that opportunity to be able to purchase that home that maybe is like $50,000 more and interest rates drop enough to where they can do it, then they're gonna try to hop all over that. And so it's gonna cause a whole lot of demand and you're gonna see prices go back up.
But here's the thing. Prices are already high. They're still elevated.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's what I'm not understanding. Like, you're telling me that they're going to go higher than high?
Oh, absolutely. Like, if you think they're high now.
If you think they're lonely now.
Yep. Wait until the interest rates drop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, but at least then the interest rates will be lower. So you really won't feel the effect as much.
So you will feel it. And the reason will be because most of the people who are going to be in the position to buy the homes are going to be the people with the money. And that's who's actually going to be taking advantage of all of those really low interest rates. So you had corporations like one company sitting on millions of dollars that can go and purchase thousands of homes, or tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars. They can go purchase tens of thousands of homes and just turn them into rentals. Meanwhile, you've got 10,000 people out there that can't purchase a home because one company that's, well stocked with cash is buying up everything out there. And so with that, it is one of those things where it is not going to really help individuals. It's not going to be like, home prices are going up, but your interest rates are low, so your payment's about the same. Well, home prices, like you said, are high now, but they're going to be even higher because whereas home ownership was more attainable, you're slowly seeing home ownership become less and less, affordable for more and more people. And so as that pendulum continues to swing in the, I can't afford a home direction, we're going to become more of a renter nation. And that's my belief. I believe we're going to become more of a renter nation in America because, people are just not going to be able to afford homes. If for no other reason, home prices will still increase because of inflation. that gradual increase of just the cost of goods and services and the cost of living that happens, just because of inflation. So even if homes didn't become more valuable, inflation in and of itself would cause homes to just raise, even if at 2% or 3% or 4% year over year, it's going to cause home prices to raise. So yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before we get to that point where it's like, all right, very few people can afford a home, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is just going to get wider and wider and wider until, it's like if you have a home, those home prices continue to go up, your home value is going to continue to go up. You bought that home at 300, 400,000 or whatever, and home prices are up to 600,000 because it's going to happen. Where in Atlanta, the average home price is going to be $500,000. It's going to be 600,000. There was a time where we were in Atlanta looking at 200 something $1,000 home prices as the norm, and looking at New York, y'all pay $800,000 for a little small, whatever, and and that's why they all moved down here, because we had major metropolitan city with very affordable living. Very affordable housing and everything. Same thing out in the West Coast. You go to LA and it's like average home price, $800-900 million homes. And that's the norm. For like a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, whatever. And you come here.
It ain't worth it out there, and it ain't going to be worth it out here either. But,
It's like, give it a few more years.
You're going to always find somebody that can buy it.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. You're always going to be able to find someone that can purchase it.
Oh, you will.
That's willing to purchase.
And I mean, it seems so far stretched now. As fast as things are moving and changing right now, it's like, give it another, I would say
2 or 3
6 years.
Oh, 6. Okay.
Like 5 or 6 years. And you'll be, average home price in Atlanta is like $500,000 or, $600,000. And it'll just be normal at that point. Gone are the days where Atlanta had those $200,000 homes that you could just buy with a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, or 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and be comfortable for 200, 250. Like, no, you need 400.
They caught on to us now. They done caught on to us.
Everybody came here. Literally, everybody came here.
Well, I was reading something that said that, the growth was finally slowing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, finally. You wouldn't be able to tell by the way that, like you said, these new home builders are just building up subdivisions everywhere. You would not be able to tell that the growth is slow. However, if you look at like the fact that they're providing so many incentives and things, you can kind of tell that the sales have slumped a little bit. And these developers, they're taking out loans to develop these communities. Like, they're called bridge loans, right?
Yeah.
And so they're to be paid back as they sell a house, but when the house sales are slowing or non-existent, they're just carrying that debt, and I'm pretty sure it's still accruing interest. So now to buy a new home right now is actually more advantageous. I mean, I've even seen these new home communities with interest rates at or a little bit below 5%. They're giving cash.
Just trying to get the houses to move.
Yeah. I know a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Jerome Powell.
Yes.
And his predictions and things that he was saying, but it's funny because he has correlated tariff-related uncertainty being the main reason that rates really have not been cut since December. We've seen them fluctuate slightly, but it's funny how, even the central bank is like kind of tapping their fingers, waiting to see what's going to happen, waiting to make any moves before they figure out what they're going to do. And I feel like that's the same thing that consumers are doing as well when it comes to purchasing houses right now.
And when you mentioned the tariffs, that was one of the reasons why the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, said that they hadn't cut rates yet, is because of all the uncertainty around the tariffs and everything. But it's interesting to me how, a lot of people think that, the cuts and the drops in the economy and everything like that, I guess we all look at things from our own vantage point. And so we feel like they're doing this for us. They're doing this to help us. But if you look at who runs the country, we're not the ones who run the country. And by we, I mean, it's not your average, everyday, middle class American, working a salary job that's bringing in, a wage that's around the average median income for whatever area. Like, no, these are people running the country that are much wealthier. A lot of them have a lot of wealth built up, whether it be through land, whether it be through stocks. We all know insider trading goes on. So it's a lot of stuff that happens, This light is getting on my nerves back here. This thing is like, I am gonna go off and on and off and on this whole time. There we go.
I thought you was at a discotheque. Okay.
You know what? Because I kept seeing it like just flashing, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And oh my goodness. Anyways, y'all watch the podcast. We gotta keep the lights on in this place. The lights is just coming off. But no, it's like we see it from our vantage point. We think it's to help us, but the people that are creating the laws, the people that are making the rules, the people that are, making the decisions and everything like that. I hate to say it, it's like a lot of them make these decisions with their own self-interest in mind, not the better interest of the country, which is part of the downfall when you have career politicians, politicians who don't just serve for a term or two, but they've been there for 20, 30 years, up there just doing what they can to keep their jobs rather than doing what they can to help the economy. And so when that's your angle, you have the other part of it, which is you got all these companies and corporations with deep pockets that own the politicians because they're like, hey, you do what's beneficial for insurance companies. You do what's beneficial for this group of people or this company that just gave you $10 million, then we'll make sure you get elected, or whatever it is. So, they, all that to say, it's not going to be something that's going to benefit us as much as we like to think, oh, they're dropping interest rates to help out the American people. It's like, no, it helps out. But we live in a free enterprise. Anybody can go and buy a house, not just American people. People with hundreds of millions of dollars and tens of thousands of homes already can go and buy another $1,000 or 1,000 homes. And when interest rates drop, those people are going to be the people that are going to end up capitalizing. There's another billionaire. I'm not going to say his name. I was like, you know what? He shall remain nameless. But he's very, very big. And you may know from this description who I'm talking about. But if you don't, it's all good. In any case, he is very, very well known in the multifamily space. He buys and invests in a lot of multifamily property. And he's a billionaire. And one of his big things is, he's a huge Trump supporter. He was very public about his support of, President Trump. And one of his big things was, Trump's a real estate guy. He's a real estate guy. He's going to do what's good for real estate. But another thing is, Trump and still is all about, we got to get rates down. We got to get rates down. This billionaire is also like, we need to get rates down. We need to get rates down. But why? So this billionaire owns tens of thousands of units in apartment buildings. And he goes around and purchases apartment buildings, and that's how he's built his billions. Well, when interest rates drop, how much easier is it for him to go and just buy up, a bunch of multifamily real estate to rent out to people? So that's his angle. You have other multimillionaires and billionaires whose angle is single family where they say, okay, you know what, I don't want to do multifamily apartments, but I want to own a whole lot of single family. And I've heard the conversations with them in the rooms where they're people who own hundreds and thousands of single family homes. And that's their angle. They just want to own, essentially a whole community of homes. You see the built to rent homes now. I passed by a couple of them while I was on the road today, and it's going to benefit them more than anyone else. The house that you have your eye on, that you're like, oh, you know what? As soon as interest rates drop, I'm gonna be able to afford it. It's gonna get snatched up just like that by someone with deeper pockets who can pay a little bit more, but it's nothing to them because they're getting a lower interest rate. And when you're spending millions and billions on real estate, a 0.5% difference makes a huge difference versus when you are buying a $300,000 house just for you to live in. 0.5% might not make as big of it. It does to you, but in the grand scheme, it's not as big as like someone who's purchasing, $5 million worth of real estate. That 0.5% means a lot more.
Yeah, so it's going to benefit corporations or those like them, more so than the individual family man, the lay person, the little guy, for lack of a better term. But I think that.
Oh, inflation too. I also forgot about that. Because that was another thing, not to cut you off. But no, it was inflation is another thing that's going to lead to this downfall that Jeff Green was referring to. The big beautiful bill, which we spoke about a few weeks ago, it's adding a lot of debt to the economy. I think it was like $3 trillion worth of debt. We saw inflation get crazy out of hand in 2020 with low interest rates because we print money and give it to people. So when you go get a loan for a home, that money is not like money that a lender has. It's all borrowed money.
Exists.
Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't actually exist. Like, I'm a mortgage loan officer. My company's not just sitting on billions and billions of dollars. Like, most lenders operate off of what's called a warehouse line of credit. And, they have that warehouse line of credit that they use to fund their loans. But that's why lenders have to sell these loans, because some of them use that money after they sell them to pay off that warehouse line of credit from all this money that they're borrowing. But it's borrowed money. So we print money and push it out into the economy. You saw so much money just getting printed up and pushed out because everyone was buying homes in 2020, which inflated the economy. That devalues the dollar. So when you devalue the dollar, the cost of goods and services increase, because now, rather than having $5 go as far as $5 used to go, when $5 has been devalued and it doesn't go as far, the goods and services have to increase to $8 or $9. So what you used to be able to get for $5 now is costing you even more because the dollar has been devalued. It's not worth as much anymore. And so all of this plays into interest rates drop. You have a huge increase in the boom of housing because you got all this money that's getting printed up, people wanting to buy houses. And then you've got inflation that happens because now all this printed money that's out there, and the more money you flood the economy with, the less each dollar is worth. Like, if all we have in America is $1 million, each dollar is worth a lot because we only got 1 million of them and that's it. But if we can just print up 10 million more and put that in the economy, now each dollar is worth a little bit less. And we print up 1 trillion and put that in the economy, each dollar is worth a little bit less. And the more money we flood into the economy, the less each dollar is worth. So we devalue the dollar. Well, if that dollar is not worth as much anymore, it can't go as far. So you need more dollars to get the same stuff that, you used to be able to get with fewer dollars because those dollars aren't worth as much anymore. And that's the big piece behind also lowering those interest rates, which is going to cause inflation if more people start rushing to buy, which is exactly what we saw in 2020 and 2021.
You know that's what's gonna happen. You know that's
So
what's gonna happen.
yeah, I mean, it's you're gonna see all of
Because I
that.
will be one of them.
And I'm not against anyone, going out there and buying a home. I think everybody should make it their goal to go own a home. Absolutely. I'm in no way am I saying, oh, people don't need to buy homes because it's going to inflate the economy. No, if anything, put a law in place where it's going to cap the billion-dollar companies from purchasing homes away from people who are trying to build their own personal wealth. It's
Right.
like the rich can get richer at the, at the, I don't know what the word is I'm thinking of right now, but it's like at the cost of the poor, not having what they're trying to get. It's
At
like
the
if
poor's expense. Yeah,
exactly at the
their
poor's expense. Exactly. So it's like if I've got $1 billion and I've got tens of thousands of homes and their home pops up for sale, and I'm like, this person who's trying to become a first-time home buyer can qualify and they want to get it, and I'm like, well, I can easily just knock them out of the way because I've got more money, and the seller's going to take my more money, which will be cash over it'll take their money. Then you know what they have no ability to go up against
Compete.
me. They can't
Yeah, they
compete
can
with me.
compete.
And so, it serves me, when interest rates drop or whenever, because it's like, okay, now not only can I get that home, but also it costs me less money because I don't have to pay. But if you have rules or laws in place to where it's like, hey, you know what? These companies and corporations have to play by a different set of rules so we can level the playing field with average Americans, since you're allowing companies and corporations to purchase all the same stuff that average Americans would want to purchase. It's like, okay, you know what? We're not going to allow you to just have tens of thousands of properties and then bully all the little people and not allow them to be able to purchase anything either. Home comes up for sale. It has to be listed it can only go to, a first time home buyer. I don't know what the rules would be, but something that can level the playing field to where it's not so one side or the other, because most of the wealth in this country is held by a very small percentage of individuals.
Yeah, they're the ones that's in charge. They're the ones that's in politics. And so having rules put in place to essentially help consumers, when the majority, even the president of the United States is generally someone that has some semblance of wealth. He's someone that, and right now he's a businessman, and he benefits from businesses and corporations having that upper hand.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard because those that are supposed to make rules and laws to help us are the ones that benefit from not helping us. And it's essentially the erasure of the middle class. It really is the haves and the have-nots now. You either have it or you don't. And that's where I see us going in the next 5-6 years. The middle class is going to be no more. Either you have a whole bunch of it or you're going to have nothing at all. And I mean, that's just unfortunate, but if I have to choose between the two, I know what side I want to be on.
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody would rather be on the side with more or the having it. And
It's just
I
how
definitely,
realistic is that?
I think a lot of it's going to be incumbent upon those who are willing to put in the work to try and create the value that
Absolutely.
will allow them to cross over the chasm, if you will. And I by no means am saying that, because I do not stand on the bandwagon of, oh, all the rich should, we should take from them and give to the poor. I don't stand in that camp. I'm not,
Right.
I'm not anti people who do. I'm just not one of those people who are like, oh, take from the rich and give to the poor. It's like, no, I don't, I'm not in that camp. If you've earned your money, you've worked for it and everything, cool. But what I am for is setting up rules in place that help level the playing field to where you can't just dominate an entire industry because you have money. We do the same thing in other industries. Like, we have rules in place to prevent monopolies because we know how dangerous monopolies can be.
Antitrust.
Exactly. I mean, if you've ever heard of John D. Rockefeller, go look up at, all the court cases and how they broke up his company because literally he was getting a monopoly on, the railroad industry and everything. It was like, when you have so much power and you have a monopoly that you control so much, that can be very dangerous. It could be terms for, creating more of a dictatorship, if you will, which some believe that that's somewhere out there in the future as well. But in any case, I'm not for the take from the rich and give to the poor, but I'm definitely we need to create something that's going to level the playing field and prevent those who have from using what they have to have this unfair advantage over those who don't have being able to play in the same field, if that makes sense. And then I feel like we just talk around it like, oh, well, if you work hard, and no, there, if you work hard,
that much working in the world, you have to work 22 hours a day.
It's like, oh, if you work hard and you do, you could be a 8-figure, person just like me. And it's like, no, let's be real for a minute, because, it's just not going to happen that way. It's not going to be, the person who even manages a company that, may never see multiple millions of dollars being on the same playing field as someone who has 10 million or 20 million dollars, and they're going after the same thing. And one person has an advantage because they can throw more money at it. One person can throw more money. There's so much. I could go on for a while, so I'll stop there. But I'll say there's just a lot of negative stuff that can come out of it, I guess you could say. But all that to say, to bring it back around to where we were at, inflation, or which will come with inflation, but the interest rates dropping is going to be something that's not really going to benefit the country or the economy as a whole. So I do think that the interest rates being higher is helping to, hold off some of that huge inflation and price increasing that we will see when interest rates drop. When they drop, we will see home prices increase. We will see inflation increase, and it will have a negative effect on the economy, I believe. I believe if negative or positive, I guess it's going to be in the eye of the beholder, but there will be a shift in the economy. We'll see a shift.
One thing that at least will remain the same, which is why we are such big proponents of home ownership, is at least for those 30 years or however long you're in your house, you don't have to worry about your actual mortgage payment rising. Now, if the property taxes go along with inflation, then obviously, and if insurance, especially if you're in a high risk area, then that might increase slightly. But for the most part, your housing costs will remain the same, even as everything else goes up. So I think that you can still find a healthy balance, even if we do, experience inflation due to interest rates lowering. I still see a bit of a silver lining because, especially in places where there's no rent control, there's really no cap. Well, they just recently capped Section 8, the housing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
How much they can charge or whatever. Yeah.
They just did that. So there's a form of rent control there. And I mean, and that is good because of all groups of people, those who are on the housing assistance do need more stability, as opposed to those who are renting and don't have, or don't necessarily need the housing assistance. But that's not to say that it's any easier for that group of people either, that they can just eat up $100 a year increase, or, even a $50 a year increase in their rent. I was very fortunate to have been where I am. I'm renting, and I've been here. It'll be a year and a half. Well, it's been a year and a half. So close to 2 years. And they didn't raise my rate after the first renewal. They didn't raise my rental rate. So that was nice. And I'm getting ready to renew again. And I'm like, yep, not ready to move. Moving is so stressful. You don't want to do that every year. People who are in the military, my heart goes out to them because it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know you really learn to become a minimalist when you're in the military, because it's like, I don't want to pack up all this crap every year. But it's like, I'm not ready to move. And, the guy in the office, he was just like, it's not going to be that much, but whatever it is, just make sure you go to the property manager and be like, is this the absolute best you can do? Because, and we've said this in another podcast, they don't want to lose a good renter.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who they can count on to pay their, rent. Well, I pay my rent on the 3rd every month. I give myself 2 days free. It's due by the 3rd, so I have 2 days free every month where I can just chill and live in the house and enjoy. And then on the 3rd, I goes ahead and pays. But
Nice.
But yeah.
But no,
one thing that he said was this really stood out to me, where he was like throwing our Jeff Green. He said throwing our immigrants out of the country was unwise when America has an aging population with an increasing proportion of people living on Social Security. That is so true, because one thing about immigrants and foreigners, they do become a part of the workforce. They're some of the hardest working people, even more so than native people that are here, Americans. And they do pay into taxes. They pay their Social Security. They pay into FICO, Medicare, whatever. They pay FICA.
They pay for their credit scores.
But they do pay into that. And now you want to get rid of them. And Social Security, you're talking about running on fumes or a deficit. If any portion of the budget in the U.S. is running on a deficit, it's Social Security, even to the point where they making the age where you get it a moving target. They keep raising that. They have all these stipulations. So I agree with Brother Green when he said that, so I would like to see if there's going to be any backtracking or any more backtracking with that, because I did see where they were like, they had some sort of provisions like, hey, if they worked in certain areas, we can consider not deporting them. If they work in certain areas of the economy, like agriculture, construction, and hospitality. Because those are the jobs that, if you don't pay Americans enough, we're not leaving our house. We're not doing that.
Oh, yeah. There's certain stuff that
Native Americans.
Yeah, we just won't do. But also, you could just, not show your true colors and learn to love people and realize they're not criminals and everything you like to try to make other people believe they are, because them criminals is homegrown. They's Americans. They look just like you. And so they are not people that don't look like you. The people committing most of the crimes in this country are looking just like the people that's trying to get rid of the people that don't look like them. So, I think that.
Yeah, they just have the money and the resources to hide. That's all.
Exactly.
That's why they don't get found out.
Yeah.
There's way more corruption at the top than there ever could be at the bottom.
Or, you know what? They get different treatment, just like
the Chris list.
Huh?
The Chris list.
I was gonna say when remember the crack age where it was like a lot of
you went way back. Okay.
crack that was going around and everything, and it was like, oh, they're all, when it was in the black community, and it was like, oh, you know what, they're all drug users and abusers, and you had them painting them to be criminals, because they you had some people that were in a state where they were using drugs. They were hooked on drugs. They were addicted to drugs. They had this addiction to something that was killing them, but you viewed them to be a criminal. But then when that spread it to the white community, it was, oh, it's an epidemic. We've got a problem here. And you start to see lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies and everybody, all of this stuff where it's like, oh, Johnson and Johnson and, all of these other companies that provided, these drugs, and my kids got hooked on them, and these companies should have been more responsible with what they were putting out there. It's like, but you call black people criminals when they were hooked on, drugs or whatever. But when white folks got hooked on drugs, because that's what it was, fentanyl and all this other stuff that they were hooked, it's a drug. It gets treated different.
It's the corporation's fault.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know what? And this is not even a black or white thing, but it's like we need to treat people who look of all different, who don't look like us. They may look, of a different race. They may speak a different language. Guess what? We can learn a different language too. You go throughout Europe, you find a lot of people across Europe that speak more than one language.
At least one, yes, at least two languages. Yep.
You go to Africa, you find Africans speak like 5, 8 different languages. Yes. And that's normal. I mean, you come here and it's like, oh, you got to speak English. We
go back to your country.
Yeah, it's like, or you could just learn. They're not speaking something secret that you can't learn. You can learn Spanish.
English over here. I can't understand you.
So, I mean, I feel like it's just, it is a spirit of division that is.
And hatred, honestly, let's call it what it is. Let's call it spade a spade. It's a spirit of hatred.
Yeah.
And intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because they're making this world and this earth and this nation more exclusive than even the kingdom of God and heaven would be. They're excluding people that Jesus would have never turned his back on, the disenfranchised, those that are more subject to being taken advantage of, and these poor black communities that had very little hope, and then you give them something that makes them feel good, even if for a moment, and it's cheap. And they're already, being discriminated against when it comes to offers of credit, when it comes to jobs and trying to have better and make, and then you group them all into one category. Those are the type of people that Jesus, I believe, would have welcomed with open arms. And these are the very people that we today, the world today, vilifies and criminalizes, and just, it's so very sad what the world has come to, what we've come to as a nation. But I feel that certain groups that do push hate are empowered based on the character of who's in charge.
Yeah.
It all trickles down from the head. The head is sick. If the top is not right, then the whole body, that everything that follows is going to be warped as well. And so, much prayer is needed. Much prayer is still needed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. It's like hiding in plain sight. The truth of what's out there is, it's like you can look at a tree and you can tell what type of tree it is by the fruit that it's bearing. Just look at the fruit of what's out there, and not so much just the words of what people say. Because, people will say, oh, we're looking out for the middle class, but look at what they're doing. People will say, oh, we're trying to make homeownership more affordable for everybody. When the big, beautiful bill passed, was there anything in there that was geared to make home ownership better for everybody? Or was it stipulations that were in there that were geared to give incentives to developers to build multifamily homes for rent? One of those is true, the other is not. And so, you just look at what people are doing, not so much the politics of what they're saying, because their fruit is being revealed, and there's an agenda behind all of these decisions. And so, not to say all politicians are bad and evil or whatever. You got good ones out there too, but by and large, you look at the direction this country's going in, and you can make the determination for yourself if you think that we're being led more so by selfishness and greed and bigotry, racism, prejudice, whatever you want to call it, or if you think we're actually being led in a better direction.
What came up to me when you were speaking just now is James 2:18. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. And so, like you said, you can speak all day long, but it's really what you do that shows what you truly believe. It shows what you truly believe in. And I think in this last election, especially, people were so led by what they were hearing, completely ignoring and being willfully blind to what was in plain sight, what they were seeing. And we just can't do that. Faith without works is dead. We're having faith in something, but not seeing the works. We're just believing what we hear. And that is dangerous.
Yeah.
So show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. And this is for everybody across the board. Pay more attention to what they do, because that's what really tells you what they believe. People are master liars and they're master manipulators, and they would deceive even the very elect if they could. So, one thing that I've been praying for lately is more discernment. Heightened discernment is what we all need in this hour, because to see so many people deceived, it's almost like I'm in a simulation. Like this can't be real.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that sometimes? Like,
No.
I know this many people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when you feel like you've been unplugged, if you've ever seen The Matrix, and it's like you see all these people walking around. It's like you have no idea that this is not real. It's just, the deception. It's like you hear something and it's like, how are you all following what you just heard? And it's all a lie. It's not even true. And you're not even fact checking it. You're just taking it as face value for what it is. And I'm like, wow, yeah, no, I felt that exact same way. Like there's so many people being deceived right now, to where I've prayed for discernment frequently. And then I get in the word, and then I go get in prayer, and I'm like, Lord, help me to navigate today and,
One
this
day
week.
at a time. Yeah, I think social media plays a large role into this groupthink, which is why I've gotten pretty much 100% away from social media right now. But that is really driving a lot of the groupthink, a lot of the deception, and when you have, Elon Musk admitted to taking over Twitter, just in time to be able to, push for President Trump to be elected. Like he used that as a tool, the ads and the advertising and all of the different algorithms that he was using during the time of the election, like all of that played into, his agenda, pushing his agenda forward. So I just think that in order to really have discernment, we really have to just get back to the basics. Get back to the basics. So.
Well, no, this has been good. Yeah, no, this has been really good. I guess I'll leave it there. And I'll say tune in Fridays. Make sure you catch the next episode of the Greatest Asset Community Podcast, Tuesday, Home Finance Hack, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live. Until next time, take care. Be blessed. We'll see you next week.
Sayonara.